next level. Now hot water.
How many elephants are remaining in Nigeria? Well, I don't know if you can Google it. But if you do, you may find that we have just about 300 to 400. And is that a good thing or not? That's what this whole thing is about. Nigeria recently launched the country's first national elephant action plan, and that's what we want to talk about. The federal government says the measure is designed to protect the small and rapidly declining population of elephants in the country. You must be shocked about that, that fact, because we've often spoken about other things, other animals that are depleting in population, and the risks associated in the ecosystem and the impact it will have on our lives and on our planet. These and several other issues we'll discuss this morning with the Minister of State for the Environment, who is with us here, Isiaq Adekunle Salako. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay. How many elephants, can you confirm indeed that we have just about 300 to 400 elephants in Nigeria?
Thank you once again. Well, that is the figure we're working with.
Okay.
I must say that is also a guess. In recent times, there has not been any scientific survey to firmly confirm the population of elephants in Nigeria, but as a working figure, which shows clearly that there has been massive depreciation in the number of elephants in our country.
In an ideal environment, how many should we have that will help our ecosystem?
Well, I think that is difficult to say. What I can say is that basically it is believed that once you have a cluster of elephants in any particular location that is less than 100, that set of elephants are severely threatened. So if you just oppose it beside the fact that we have elephants in about 10 locations in Nigeria, so if you distribute 300 to 400 into 10 locations, so averagely less than 50 in each location. I think it's only in the Yankari Game Reserve in Bauchi that we have about 100 elephants, which means that we can say that significantly the population of elephants in our country are severely under threat of extinction.
I don't know. So what's this National Elephant Action Plan about, really?
The plan is, well, it is one of the key pillars of our efforts to conserve our ecosystem, restore our biodiversity, protect our natural resources, because we know that elephants play some very important roles within the ecosystem. They are very important in maintaining our forests. They are generally referred to as the forest engineers. You know, they create pathways for smaller animals. They also help in dispersal of seeds and regeneration of forests. During droughts, they help a lot in creating avenue for other smaller animals to have drinking location, because they can actually create water holes in water beds. They are also important in the amount of carbon that our land can store and nitrogen that our land can store. So they also, of course, their fecal matter are also very rich. They are nutrients for other smaller insects. So in some locations, particularly in East Africa, they play a significant role in maintaining the balance of tsetse fly, for example, you know, in ensuring that tsetse fly do not become too much in the environment. And you know, tsetse flies is a vector of a very bad disease. So generally, they are very important. They play a very special role. Beyond that, they are also a significant earner of revenue for countries that can make the best use of it for ecotourism. You find out that when you go to especially East African countries, Kenya, Tanzania, although in South Africa, like Botswana, the government and communities are generating a lot of revenue from just people coming to watch wildlife like elephants. So it also resonates with the agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to diversify the economy of Nigeria, which is also focusing on ecotourism, on promoting tourism. So all this comes together and underscores the need for us to protect the population of elephants in our country.
So what's the plan about? How do you go about it? And is there a role for Nigerians?
Yes, definitely. First, the plan has about 8 objectives. First, the plan seeks to see how to ensure that we end illegal killing of elephants and illegal trade in elephant parts, particularly the ivory. And of course, there's also a plan on how to increase the awareness, how to mobilize Nigerians, how to get them more informed about the relevance of elephants in our ecosystem. It talks about the need for us to strengthen our laws and ensure that we're able to prevent wildlife trafficking and illegal sales of wildlife parts, elephant parts. Talks about the need for implementation. Of course, we also need, part of the plan is for us to also research in terms of, now I said that what we're saying about the population is just a guess, as it were. So the plan also talks about the research. So the role for elephant, of course, it also talks about the need for us to involve communities more, and you'll find out that quite a number of challenges we face with elephants. It's also because of what is called the elephant-human conflicts. I'm sure you will have read sometimes last year, for example, we had some elephants killed in the northern part of Nigeria, specifically in Borno State, because people claim that those elephants entered their farms and destroyed their crops, and they just killed, I think, 2 of them. So we also need to mobilize Nigerians, educate Nigerians, so that we can reduce the conflict that exists between humans and elephants. So those are some of the core elements of this objective of this plan.
I'm happy that you mentioned the community, because that's where these wildlife naturally live. So it means, if these people could just, kill an elephant simply because, it's violated, so to speak, their environment, perhaps also speaks to their ignorance about these issues. So I ask again, what roles are there for the people?
Well, first is that it's important, like I said, to organize communities where elephants are located, to see elephants as contributing to the ecosystem, and also to organize them in such a way that they can also generate some alternative livelihoods, economic activities around elephants. You find out that if you're able to achieve that, it helps to minimize the conflicts, because when they know that these creatures can be a source of livelihood for them, they also are out to protect the existence of those animals. So as part of involving communities, we want to see a situation where communities around where elephants are created we organize community conservation clubs, community conservation groups, who now see those elephants as their own and that must be protected, who support government machineries to ensure that those elephants are protected. That is happening, for example, already in one of our national parks in Cross River, where communities are involved in ensuring that they work with our forest rangers to ensure that those animals are protected. So, of course, it is not only by protecting those animals that we also are going to promote tourism. We also, other factors, improving our security generally, improving our infrastructure, improving our ease of doing business and all that, and creating that tourism consciousness. If you visit any of those tourist destinations, you see there's a consciousness among the people in terms of the way they welcome people at the airport, the way they receive people at the entry points, even when you go to hotels, the way they relate with you and promote tourist destinations. All those two must be promoted to ensure that at the end of the day, when we're able to achieve that, people now see elephants as a source of livelihood, you know, and they are now very, very frontal in ensuring that those creatures are protected. I visited somewhere recently, a private conservancy, and very small place, and tell me that in a year, and annually, they generate about $6 million from visitors who come to visit their wildlife. Elephants, baboons, rhinos, and so on and so forth. Nigeria can also generate a lot of revenue from promoting nature tourism.
I think we need to emphasize that, which you just said a little more, as opposed to the trafficking that we are talking about, which needs to be reduced. Because elephant ivory, pangolin scales, and a number of those are the things that people actually traffic, for which reason we're having this conversation so that we can put pay to it. Now, how about security agencies? Because I'm not sure some of them or many of them know about these issues, these amazing initiatives that you're talking about otherwise. Because for some of them, it's good business, right?
Absolutely.
To just get you know, some money from these people who are exporting these things. Anything going out of the country, they have to raise money and all of those things, you know. So what education are we giving to them to know that, look, when these things happen, the people who are trafficking these things should be arrested or stuff like that?
Well, that is a very key component of the objective of this plan that we're talking about. It's not only even law enforcement agents, even the judiciary. So the plan also envisages a situation where law enforcement agents are well trained, are well informed. The judicial officers, judges are also trained, are well informed. And at the moment, there's a law being considered in the National Assembly, which is going to enhance our capacity to enforce wildlife conservation and to ensure that we also bring to book people who cross the line in terms of illegal wildlife trades. So that's is currently ongoing in the National Assembly. So as part of our plan, we hope to be able to also train judges, train law enforcement agents, and also create an interagency implementing a team that involves especially the custom, the NFIU, and there's of course our rangers, those who works in the forests, so to some extent the immigration, you know, all these are involved, custom, all of them. So it is going to be a multi-agency arrangement in such a way that everybody's role is clearly stated out. Yes, with the Minister of Environment leading, but all agencies also contributing to ensure that we're able to enforce that. Of course, as part of that too, we're also working with our neighbors, because Nigeria is a route for some of these, for transporting some of these materials. For example, earlier this year, we signed an agreement with Cameroon because quite a number of ivory parts or wildlife parts that are coming from East Africa or even Southern Africa goes through Cameroon, through Nigeria to Asia. So we are able to cooperate with the two countries cooperating to ensure that you are able, so that, for example, you find out that when a wildlife trafficker is arrested at the border region, you know, it becomes an issue. Which country should handle it? And a lot of times, the arrest takes place at the border region. But once you have that kind of arrangement, you work with the arrangement, the MOU, the understanding that you already have, and it's easier to now prosecute such offenders.
Now, you've also rightly mentioned something now that there are other trafficked items like that. And so far we've mentioned just two two animals, elephants and pangolins. Are there others in our ecosystem that are already depleted that we need to repopulate so that Nigerians will at least have an understanding of these things? And then we can also join in, whether we are in the communities where these animals live or not.
Oh, yes, quite a number of people traffic in crocodile skins, birds, especially parrots, exotic birds, snake skin that they used to make bags and stuff like that. Talked about pangolin, talked about elephant, even rhinoceros. The horn of the rhinoceros is also trafficked. So these animals all play a role in our ecosystem, and of course this particular action plan is specifically directed at elephants, but within the larger scope of restoring our ecosystem and protecting our biodiversity, all these animals also fits into it, and every effort is being made to ensure that Nigerians protect them.
I do understand that. I mean, because sometimes people don't even know the risks that they put themselves at, you know, for all of these things. For instance, when was it? Wasn't it just last year we were talking about, about on 2019 into 2020, that we're talking about COVID-19, which is a zoonotic disease. And a number of people have no ideas, for instance, that, and then we were also hearing about mpox. Many people are not even aware that, trafficking in these animals, just killing them without any, well, for some people, it's just bushmeat, nothing more than that. But it's as dangerous as they come to people.
Right.
So what's the level of awareness? Maybe a better word would be education, but at least start with awareness of these issues in our communities, because I'm pretty sure that many people don't know.
Well, zoonotic diseases have become very important in the public health management system. And today you find out that quite a number of infectious diseases that are previously unknown are now circulating within the human communities as a result of more interaction or closer interaction with animals. This is happening because there's a lot of pressure on the ecosystem that the animals, the natural habitats of animals are under a lot of pressure from human activities. And as a result of that, animals are now migrating even into where humans are living. And so you find out that quite a number of, you mentioned COVID, you mentioned mpox, we have Lassa fever, and so on and so forth that are transmitted from animals to man. There's a concept of One Health, and the One Health concept is about ensuring that three key agencies of government, the health sector, the environment sector, and the agri sector, look at health with one eye. Because you find out that at the agricultural level, for example, livestock, they are in charge, and then you talk about some of the animals that are diseases that can be transmitted from livestock to human beings. All these animals exist within the environment, and of course the health system is the one that providing the health sector care for these diseases. So we have that collaboration of working together within us, between the health sector, between the environment and the agri sector, to ensure that we in the environment sector, for example, are able to manage environmental conditions in terms of waste. That, for example, when you have waste a lot in the community, what do? You increase the population of rats. And when the population of rats are increased, the risk of transmission of disease from rats to human being is increased. So for us at the environment sector, we must ensure that we control waste so that we don't unnecessarily, the population of rats are not unnecessarily increased. You know that diseases can be transmitted, for example, from chicken to human being. So when you keep livestock, the Minister of Agric is also important in ensuring that livestock farmers are well informed, are well educated, and are well monitored to ensure that even when you have disease outbreaks, as a result, within the animal system, it is quickly reported and effort is made to control it. So working in that direction, we're able to control some of the activities.
I'm not sure many people understand, Mr. Salako, because I mean, just talk about that, you know, the animal transmission of diseases from chickens to human beings. Many people just want to eat chicken suya. You know, so that's the thing that many people are aware of.
Absolutely.
And some would, in fact, in the recent time, I know a number of people that say, look, it's healthier to have live chicken. I mean, you kill it yourself, it's not imported and all of those things, as opposed to so...
No, the point is not that we cannot eat chicken.
I understand, but I'm saying, I mean, you just talked about in the keeping them, in the way we handle them. Because some people still breathe the same air as chickens in their cars. When they're going to, I mean, you just took it from the
roadside
and or from wherever else, and then...
You put it in the car with yourself.
Exactly. You breathe the same air, you put it in an air-conditioned car to drive it all the way home and all of those things. So where's the middle ground here?
Well, the basic thing is you see that a lot of time the outbreak of diseases within the animals, when you keep animals in livestock, once you have a good monitoring and surveillance system, and that is the most important element with this, such that you find out that, I'm trying to remember the technical name for that disease now, when such diseases breaks out, you see the regulatory authorities going into farms where those diseases have been identified to euthanize all the animals in those farms, you know. So it is good monitoring and surveillance system that ensures that diseases in animals that can transmit to human beings are detected very early, and the possible chain of transmission is broken. You know, once, for example, when you euthanize all those animals, they can no longer be consumed. They are euthanized and they are buried, they are treated and buried in a very protective manner. So that is the kind of thing that we need to continuously ensure. The veterinary authorities need to be well educated, supported, you know, to be able to carry out a lot of surveillance and monitoring activities among domestic animals, and then they must also be able to enforce some laws. For example, if you have a dog, are you vaccinating your dog against rabies? You know, if you keep pigs, what kind of environment are you keeping it? If you are rearing livestock, are you rearing those livestock within communities that people are living? Because you are not supposed to raise livestock within where people are living. I think that even if you are going to keep maybe a few, there's a limit to how much you can keep within living environments. So these are all public health laws supported by the agri sector that veterinary authorities must be empowered to continuously monitor and enforce to ensure that we do not have continuous transmission of zoonotic diseases.
Let me quickly digress. I understand that you have a domestic elephant. You know, because some people are going to be wondering, well, maybe you have your foundation was very, very strong.
Well, I think that the media, I thank the media for... What actually happened is that it was brought to my attention that a certain 18-month elephant was orphaned. And they're trying to raise money averagely to keep an elephant per month. Such an orphaned elephant requires about $1,000 every month.
Oh, wait, pause. $1,000.
$1,000 averagely in a month to keep such elephants.
That's about 1.5 million a month.
Right.
Elephant.
I'm telling you.
Anima.
Yes.
It's okay.
So quite a number of people now gather together.
Okay.
And we are all parents, co-parents to that orphaned elephant, to support in our little ways to ensure that, because that elephant is going to be raised in captivity for about 18 years before it can be released to the forest.
Is there a way to replicate such things, such that we can repopulate, so to speak, the elephant population in the country?
Well, there's not a very strong system yet in our country. But in countries like Kenya, like Botswana, like Tanzania, there's a very strong system of raising orphan elephants.
Sorry, my apologies. I'm actually looking at, deliberate, efforts to have them groom, elephants like that. I don't know. Maybe their gestation cycle is very short or very too long.
No, it's quite long. I think the average gestation of an elephant is about 22 months. And for an elephant to reach adulthood, I think it would take about 12 or 14 years.
Wow.
So, and when you bring in an orphaned elephant into a place where you are taking care of it, there's a process. The experts will be able to enlighten us more, but there's a process of reintroducing, because the eventual end point is to reintroduce that elephant back into the wild. But to introduce that elephant, first you have to raise it well, and you can only raise it. They feed them with milk, animal milk, which are very expensive, and that's, you can imagine the number of times the elephant will have to be fed per day. And they are also, after a while, they also start gradually reintroducing them and bringing them back. They take them, the elephant, they are so intelligent. I've watched them. There's a place I visited. They know where they sleep. So if they're coming, when they take them to graze and they are coming back, each person is not directed to they just go to where their house that has been constructed for them on their own. And in places where this thing is done, you see the kind of effort, that for about, I think 4 years, a human being sleep with that elephant every night. For about 4 years. So at night, there's a human being sleeping with the elephant in his abode to ensure that because the elephant, once it is not, it's a very social animal. When there is no social environment created, it makes them aggressive. So it's something that requires a lot of energy, and we have a lot of private efforts, private NGOs doing that all over the world. We hope we can also raise the level of awareness and the level of interest in Nigeria to that extent that people can be more involved.
Well, I just wanted to quickly digress to that one, but there is something very important that you also mentioned that people need to be reminded of, and that's the fact that the Ministry of the Environment in Nigeria, be it at the federal or state level, they are in charge of, in a way, preventive health. Because most of the diseases that we have spoken about here, they are from the environment.
Right.
And if the environments are well kept, then the level of, there is a huge reduction in the possibility of health hazards and all of that.
Right.
Is this understanding well known to health authorities? Is this understanding well known to those in the agri sector, as you mentioned earlier?
The Ministry of Environment, for example, has a department that's called Pollution Control and Environmental Health. So that suggests that there's a clear link between pollution and the health of the environment. We also have the Environmental Health Officers Registration Council, which also clearly demonstrates that we realize that environmental system is very important to the health. And like I said, when we talk about the One Health thing that I was talking about, is a collaboration between the Ministry of Health at the federal and state levels, and also at the local government level, Federal Ministry of Environment, or the Ministries of Environment, Ministries of Health, and Ministries of Agri, because there is that connection. If, for example, you talk about a disease like Lassa fever, you find out that Lassa fever is the vector transmitting the disease is a rat, and what makes the rat come into contact with the food that human ingests is the way those food are kept. In some places, when they want to sun dry food stuff, it is kept on the open, especially in the villages. They kept it roadside in the open, and rats are able to come in contact with it. They can urinate on it. Their saliva comes in contact with it, which can contain the virus that causes Lassa fever. So when we have a situation where the way we treat foodstuff in the environment is well managed, what we're doing is that we're helping the health authorities to ensure that they do not have to be running around to control or treat Lassa fever. So you find out that the influence of the environment, particularly when it comes to infectious diseases, is very, very heavy. And it is like the environment is like the tap. You know, the health industry are like mopping the floor. If the environment that is holding the tap is not working well, they will keep mopping. You know, because if this is if the drain is leaking and we are holding the tap, if we are able to close the tap, it will be easy for the health sector to dry the floor. So you find out that except we work in that, and that is why you see even when diseases like cholera breaks out, you see the Ministry of Environment working very closely, because these are related to our environmental conditions. And of course, it also speaks to issues like mental health, issues like noise level in the environment, issues like even pollution in the environment, the quality of our air. All these are also very, very important in our health status, generally speaking.
Yeah. I hope we all know that. Well, Victor Owo is listening to you, and he says that in his state, Akwa Ibom, there is a local government called Nkpat Enen, translated as the footprint or path of the elephants. He now says, of course, that was a strong migration route in the days of old.
Right.
He now says there is not one elephant, not one single elephant in Akwa Ibom. In his Akwa Ibom state now, says we need to pay more attention to these things for tourism drive.
I can agree less with him. Is spot on, because of our the way the pressure that were put on the habitat of animals, including elephants. We have completely driven them out of our environment. You know, there's a lot of pressure. Their roots are built up. We've constructed roads there. We've constructed bridges there, housing estates there. So they're migrating. And you know, elephants need a very wide area to roam. You know, so such things are absolutely necessary.
Okay. Well, in January, you promised to plant and nurture at least 50 trees this year. How's that going?
Well, as a matter of fact, I think it was in July. I reached my 50th tree in July. But I thought I should go on and see whether I can reach 100. So I'm still on it. But I've done 50 already. That's
awesome. We should actually mark your exam answer sheets.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. 100. So, well, of course, we're also aware of the Bola Tinubu Green Project, Green Heroes Project, which we understand was established to create jobs for the young and retirees in the country.
Well, the Bola Tinubu Green Heroes Project is basically designed to, apart from creating jobs, it's also to get communities more involved in conservation activities. The whole focus of that initiative is to create community forests that are owned by communities. For example, our plan is that each year we can create at least 25 communities in 25 local governments of Nigeria, covering about minimum of 10 hectares of land. So what we're doing is to approaching communities directly. Please give us 10 hectares of land. When you give us 10 hectares of land, we will bring the seedlings, we'll provide the funding to plant the seedlings, and we also engage people to nurture the tree for a year. After a year, we set up a community committee that's going to be managing the forest, and we hand over the forest to the community with the condition that they cannot cut down the trees. They are going to be mostly economic trees. They can harvest the fruits, and when it gets to maturity for cutting of the trees, there has to be a joint plan between us and the community to ensure replacement. of those trees. So that's the arrangement we are trying. So you find out that because we are going to get youth and retirees to help us in planting those trees, we will train them, they will help us in planting, and they will also be in charge of taking care of those trees for at least a year. So some people will be engaged for that 1 year, and we hope that this is something we can repeat every year, so that in 3 years we can cover at least 75 local governments of Nigeria.
It's getting closer to that season when dams will be opened. When is that likely to be this year?
Well, as a matter of fact, I think that, let me first say that the Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation that are in charge of dams, and when we talk about, for example, the dam in Adamawa State, the one in Cameroon, Lagdo dams, that is frequently a challenge for us. There's an understanding between the management of that Lagdo dam and our own Ministry of Water and Sanitation here to periodically exchange information on what is going on. So what determines when the dam is open is actually the water level in that dam, because they don't want the dam to force itself open. So it is better to open it and manage and release the water at a managed level. So I think that, I think so far we're hoping that this year's flood event will not be as severe as the one we saw last year. So that's just the situation. The monitoring system is on. We have the flood early warning systems that have been installed in several parts of the country, and the relevant authority issues weekly and sometimes bi-weekly advisory on the state of flooding in Nigeria, and that's inform actions at the subnational levels to plan against that.
You can't give us an idea maybe in a month or two now, because we understand it was yesterday or the day before yesterday we were getting news that about 27 states are going to be affected by flooding. And some of these may also be occasioned by, this opening of the dams and all. So what are the plans for the communities that will definitely be affected?
What we have done so far, first is to ensure that we step up our sensitization activities in terms of ensuring that our drains are well opened. We clean our drains so that water can flow properly. In addition to that, we are implementing high-impact flood control projects, particularly in areas of heavy challenge. Across the country, I think last year we implemented about 26 high-impact flood mitigation projects, constructing secondary drains, and sometimes constructing retention facilities for water, so that the impact of the drain of the flood is reduced. At the moment, you see that once the flood has happened, our role as Minister of Environment becomes reduced, because then it now becomes humanitarian response, palliative response, which is usually handled by another ministry of the federal government. But ours is basically to try and ensure that the flood is prevented through awareness creation, through creating channels for water to flow. But I must also say that it is not completely, fully within our control to say that there will be no flood, because sometimes flash flood occur when the rains fall heavier than it can be soaked into the land quickly. And of course, with the challenge of climate change too, we are also faced with flooding issues on a regular basis, which is actually a global problem. But we're doing our best to ensure that our people are as much as possible protected from the negative impact of flooding.
At the end of the day, I always go back to the people, how people are directly or indirectly affected, by these things. Still talking about the people, the federal government, decided to ban single-use plastics which is, of course, also known as on-the-go plastic. Now, we're told that the ban covers all federal MDAs.
Right.
How is that going?
Well, that is ongoing. We have a little delay in starting the implementation of that. Our plan was to have started implementation by the beginning of this month, but there's some little delays because we really need to prepare the ministries, ensure that they have the right information, and they also are able to get the right, because if you are going to say don't bring disposable plastic to the office, you must be able to provide alternatives for people to drink from, So because of those logistic problems, we were delaying a little. Maybe hopefully before the end of September, I think the full implementation of that will commence within the federal ministries, departments, and agencies.
I'll keep my other 10 questions until I have time. Isiaq Adekunle Salako, Minister of State for the Environment, thank you so much, so much for your time this morning and for educating us about some of these issues. So when we return, I'm going to toggle the arrangement a little bit. What's coming next? After now.